Now I'll be looking at the wedge. I'll be looking at what is the net of a wedge, how to find the total surface area of a wedge, and how do we calculate the volume of a wedge. So, in solid geometry, a wedge is a polyhedron defined by two triangles and three trapezoid faces. And a polyhedron is a solid figure with many plane faces. A wedge has 5 faces, 9 edges, and 6 vertices. Also, in geometry, a wedge is a right triangular prism turned so that it rests on one of its lateral rectangular faces. Now let's look at the net of a wedge. The net of a triangular prism consists of 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. The triangles are the bases of the prism and the rectangles are the lateral faces. Now we're moving on to the total surface area of a wedge.
Other kind of prism is the triangular prism, also known as a wedge. Yes, that's right. Think of the wedge we use under a door. As the name suggests, it has a cross-section which is in the shape of a triangle. Let's say this wedge has a length of 20 centimeters. Its cross-section has a base of 8 centimeters and a height 6 centimeters, with the third side measuring 10 centimeters. How would we find its total surface area? The wedge has 5 faces, 2 triangular and 3 rectangular. Looking at the cross-section, we see that it is triangular. So we find the area of the triangle, which would be half times 6 centimeters times 8 centimeters equals 24 centimeters squared. Next, we find the area of each of the rectangular faces. 10 centimeters by 20 centimeters, 20 centimeters by 8 centimeters, and 20 centimeters by 6 centimeters. Therefore, the total surface area of the wedge would be equal to the sum of the 3 rectangular faces and the 2 triangular faces. This gives us 528 centimeters squared.
From this video, we understand that when we're looking at the total surface area of a wedge, we need to find the area of all the 5 faces and add it up to find our total surface area. Now we have another way we can calculate the total surface area of a wedge, which can save some time over the process of going through each face at a time. This is a formula we can use to calculate the surface area of a wedge, with B being the base, H being the height of the triangle, and S1, S2, and S3 the length of each triangle base, and H the height of the prism, which is the length of the rectangles. Now let's look at an example. Angular end has a base of 3 cm and height of 4 cm. The length of each side is 6 cm and the height of the prism, which is the length of the rectangle, is 8 cm. What is the surface area of this triangular prism? The first thing we should do is to substitute the given values into the formula. Next, we should multiply the base times height for the area of the triangle and add the 3 sides, S1, S2, and S3. Then multiply the sum of triangles by the height of prism. And the final thing we'll do is add all the values together to get our answer. And that is how we use a formula to find the total surface area of a wedge. Now, the final thing we'll be looking at is the volume of a wedge.
All right, for our next one, we are finding the volume of a triangular prism. Triangle in a shape of a prism, so triangular prism. Remember, a triangle is half of a rectangle, so we are actually finding the volume of a rectangle, length times width times height, but since it's a triangle, we're taking all that information and dividing it by 2, because a triangle is half of a rectangle. Now we need the length. The length is the distance the two triangle faces are apart from each other, 6. The width is how wide the base is, or the bottom of the triangle, 4. And now we get to the tricky part, the height. The height is how tall the triangle is. And remember, when we measure height, height is a vertical line going straight up and down. And so in this particular triangular prism, they gave us more information than we need. Length times width times height. We have length, width, height, and something else, or some length, width, height, and something else. We've used the 4, we've used the 6, so we have to decide, is the 1.5 the height or the 2.5? Well, the 2.5 is this part of this triangle here. Remember, height is what? The vertical line going straight up and down. Here it is right here. This is the height of the triangle because it's how tall it is from the bottom to the top. So we're using 1 and 5/10 for the height. So we're multiplying all these numbers together, and then we're dividing by 2 to get that volume, okay? Length times width times height divided by 2. So find that, and remember our answer is always in cubes, or to the power of 3, meters to the power of 3. All right, good luck finding that, and I'll see you on the next one.
Good. So now we know that the formula for calculating volume of a wedge is length times width times height divided by 2. So now what we're going to do, we're going to plug in the value and calculate our volume. Times 4 times 1.5 divided by 2 will get 36 divided by 2, which will give us 18 meter cube. So we've looked at the net of a wedge, the total surface area of a wedge, and the volume of a wedge. So this has brought you to the end of my presentation.